Welcome into the Stack Shack podcast. My name is Nathaniel. I am joined, as always, with my good buddy Gabe. And we've got the end of Wheel of Time and the beginning of Book of Boba, right? It was a great week of content. I know we were both very excited for Book of Boba. We've been talking a lot about Wheel of Time, so now we get to finally wrap that up. And
Lots of
let's
thoughts on
just
that
get
one.
straight into it. Gabe, Wheel of Time season finale. We'll start with the show that is ending. First, what did you think about the season finale? And then maybe we can get into overall season thoughts. But let's talk season finale on its own first.
So, we had a lot of thoughts last week. We kind of discussed our overall feeling about the show, right?
Yeah.
And we really came down to season finale's got to pull it together right at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it did so.
Okay.
Not a big fan of this episode. I feel
Yeah.
the pacing was weird.
Yep.
Just because of the split. They split off, where every character was, and I feel like I didn't need to know what other characters were doing. Like, why do we care if Rand is obviously the biggest part of this episode, and it
Yeah.
didn't feel like we got enough of Rand. And then
Yeah. Not a
I
lot.
didn't like anything else going on in the episode either. So just overall, probably my least favorite episode of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna yeah. What are your thoughts?
I agree. We ended last episode of the podcast talking about, okay, you really are going to have to do something crazy in the season finale to make me interested. And I just didn't think it was that good of an episode of television.
No.
Like, just and we've talked a lot throughout the season of our opinions on various changes that they've made, things we've liked, things we not liked. At this point, I don't even care. Like, they made more changes. That's fine. I don't even care. That's not even my concern anymore with the show. My concern is it's just not a quality show. The CGI is very spotty to
The
me.
whole scene where they're linking the five Aes Sedai,
Mm-hmm.
that just did not look good.
It
Like
didn't.
the shots, not even just the CGI, but like, why did you set up the angles? Okay. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, nothing felt. It didn't. It just doesn't feel like a quality TV show. And what's interesting to me, it feels like what I would expect. The CGI, the framing, and the set design, to me all feels like what I would expect on a network television weekly show.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. I like some of the network television weekly shows. I really enjoyed the first 4 seasons of Arrow.
Mhm.
Right? Like, that's an example. But there's certain things when I go into a network television show that I know they have to come out with like 25 episodes. And they're trying to, they have to put it out every single year, right? That's a lot of content. And
Yeah.
when you do that, you can't spend as much money per episode, and you have to go kind of fast through things, so it doesn't feel as polished a lot of the times. The CGI, the graphics, the set pieces don't feel quite polished. They feel a little TV. You're like, okay, that's a TV show. And then you go to movies where, they've worked on this project for 3 years. They put all the money into this hour and a half of content or 2.5 hours of content, right? That's typically much more polished. And that's how television and movies have worked for a long time, until more recently, where we've had these shows that have been saying, hey, people like these TV shows. Game of Thrones kind of started it, of like, we can throw a bunch of money. Let's throw
Yeah.
a
Just
movie-sized
go all
budget
in.
into these shows. Let's go all in. Let's spend more money on this show in one season than we would on a normal movie, because we want to make it movie quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marvel shows, the CGI in those Marvel shows is movie quality. Mandalorian, movie quality animation, movie quality set design,
Mm,
movie quality, graphics, really cutting edge styles with the whole like using a game engine to build these hyper
dude.
realistic environments so that they don't have to go on different sites and they have the big like wraparound screens that they're
Yeah.
just filming live on. I think that's super cool.
Well, the
Right.
fact that they don't have to use
So,
green screen either, that just like your immersion as an actor must have to be so much
oh,
better. Seeing what's
it's
going on
so
around
much
you.
better.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
so cool.
exactly. So those kinds of things, and that's what with Amazon put $10 million an episode into this show.
God.
That's a lot of money. That's more money than Game of Thrones season 1. I mean, that's up there with the highest budgets we've ever had for a TV show. And I don't know where the money went. That's what I'm kind of getting the sense of. It doesn't feel like a high quality television show. I feel like I'm watching something, you know, I feel like a show like The Expanse has better CGI
Season 1 is definitely
and
not known for its
and and
CGI either.
better framing and more care done. The set design to me just feels fake. Nothing feels real to me with all of the sets. They all look fake. The graphics of the area, it just feels like it was a low budget television show. And that's really disappointing me. Um and maybe they didn't allocate, they talked about the $10 million an episode. Maybe they didn't allocate, maybe most of that went to paying for really high level actors, which the acting has been really good. Got to
Yeah,
give them credit for that.
A plus.
But maybe that's where all the money went and they didn't spend much money on CGI. I'm not blaming the CGI artists here or the set designers here because they may be really just working on a normal low budget television type situation, right? We don't know how that got allocated, but for a big name marketed as a, high level, high budget television show, I've just been disappointed by the attention to detail and just it doesn't feel like it's good storytelling. Things don't look good, things don't feel right, and then I just don't feel like on its own,
Hmm.
regardless of changes, because I think changes are always going to be, you're going to have 50% that are like, no, that makes sense, and 50% that are going to hate it.
Yeah.
Um, Regardless of changes, if you in my opinion, if you just look at the story they told and the television show they put out, if I'd never read the books before, if I had no idea that there were any changes, I don't think the show would stand on its own. I just don't think it was that good of a season. The pacing problems. And I saw one article that was arguing, and they were like, hey, I think the show was better because of the changes that they made. And in the article, the review, they said, yes, the pacing was bad, the CGI wasn't very good, and you know, the set design felt a little off, but I still kind of enjoyed it and it was okay. But I really liked these changes they made. They made it more accessible. They made the story they sped up the pace of the story in a few different ways, which I would agree. I think some of these changes were solid.
Yeah.
Some of them I don't like, but some of them other people like. And so, like I said, you could go either way on a lot of the changes, in my opinion. But I don't think we get to say, oh, it was the changes they made were fine, so it was a good show. No, the show itself had a lot of issues, and we can't overlook those. And they're not related necessarily to the changes that were made.
Yeah.
I personally, for the season finale, I like the way the books do this ending much, much better than how they did it in the show.
So that's really funny to me because among book fans, the Eye of the World's ending is one of the most hated of the books.
Interesting.
It is one of the like it not I don't know about hated, just no one like it didn't feel satisfying to anyone. It just kind of felt like, oh, now we're done. And part of that was because Robert Jordan, when he was writing, he got to this point, and his wife was like, "You need to like wrap it up because you might not get a sequel. So you got to have this be an ending if you don't get another book."
Yeah.
So he had a different vision for the ending, but he had to shift things around, and no one thinks it feels good. And somehow the show did it worse.
Yeah.
That's what I'm so surprised about.
It, I was,
Oh.
and here's the deal. For just Rafi has said, showrunner has said, I wanted to make this show accessible to the masses. And he's been very clear that he knew he was going to piss off diehard book fans. He knew it was. It was going to piss them off because he knew it was not going to be a perfectly faithful adaptation. And that he was going to change a lot of things in order to, in his mind, make them more accessible to the masses.
And it probably did some of that. He probably
And
focusing on some of these other characters,
yep,
cutting out parts, probably made this less of a fantasy epic, like
yep.
typical style, and more
Hmm.
focused for the normal audiences. I can
But
totally see that.
the problem is, in my opinion, the ending that's in the book, that's kind of what we were just talking about. The ending that's in the book is kind of that accessible ending to give you
Yes.
some big, epic, crazy ending to the book so that the masses are like, I want book two. And that's what I felt this season needed.
Hmm.
It needed an incredible ending, an epic ending, and with how they've kind of power leveled everybody so far, like everybody seems more powerful, I was expecting a wild ending to this show, and we got, in my opinion, a very boring ending.
Yes.
Like the whole Rand and the Dark One interaction, no intensity.
Now,
I was bored.
I agree. I was more bored with the rest of the episode, but part of what made me interested in the Rand, that whole conflict later on in the books, we get a very similar conflict between Rand and the Dark One. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure that's where
interesting.
they're drawing inspiration from.
Okay.
What made it so much better in the books is we've had, you know, 10 more books to go through and understand Rand's character and him
Mm-hmm.
dealing with being the Dragon Reborn. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like we said in last episode, we have not really seen Rand deal with being the dragon at all.
No,
It was just kind of, all right,
no internal conflict.
we haven't had any thoughts, we haven't seen how any of these characters react to it. So now we have him being confronted with being the dragon by the Dark One and this whole like moral conflict, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
like is it better to make a world where people don't have choice?
Yeah.
And we don't have Rand's character to like we can't look at him and go like, "Oh, this is how his thoughts on this." We had to
Yeah.
see his exposition here to get that. We haven't had enough character development to make this final confrontation make much meaning, in my
Yeah.
opinion. At least
I
with the
would
show.
agree. I would agree. I just felt like it was very boring. In the books, it's much more, um,
It's
I
a
would
very
say
different
violent.
conflict.
Yeah, it's a different conflict. It's like wielding power against each other, kind
Yeah.
of, in the books. Also, Rand is the one who, like, teleports to the gap and just annihilates the
The Trolloc
whole
horde.
horde and saves all of the city, including our, like, king of that area, right?
Hmm.
Lord Agelmar. Lord Agelmar survives in the books. He doesn't really survive in the show.
Um,
Um.
Speaking of surviving characters, Loyal?
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
What? What?
What? What? That's true. I hadn't even gotten to that point yet. Holy smokes, was that stupid?
Yeah. Not spoiling further, but Loyal does not die in book one. Um,
No.
he's definitely a recurring character. So
Yeah.
unless they're deciding like, oh, let's retcon that in episode 1 of season 2, um, which would feel awful. Like, oh, death has no consequences now. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. Did not like that either.
Did not like that at all. I didn't like that whole interaction situation. Hot on Fane's actor does a great job. I will
Oh
give him
yeah,
that.
yeah. And
Awesome.
you just like you have this when you see him with the fades and you're like, oh, this
Yeah.
guy is commanding fades. Oh, he's a lot
This
more
guy's
badass than we expected.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, he's pretty cool. But to have and he has the dagger. How did he get the dagger?
They don't explain that.
He's holding Matt's dagger. Why does he have the dagger? How the hell did he get the dagger? Makes no sense.
So I will not
So that
spoil
was
things.
another situation where, and again, changes versus I'm just looking for. I'm more frustrated about like okay, they changed how Rand interacts with the Dark One in that last moment. Fine,
Mhm.
whatever. But more specifically, I'm looking at little things like how the hell does Pot on Fane get the dagger? You kill Loyal, but Loyal or supposedly kill Loyal. I mean, maybe he's not dead.
Maybe
I
he's
don't
just
know.
injured. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe he's just injured, but he sure looks
he was definitely
the
stabbed.
the effect that you're trying to have in the show is that you think he's dead. You know, maybe he won't be later on, but you give that as a an effect of the show, and yet we have spent almost zero time with Loyal. We don't even know why he went with them. They still never said that he's the reason they're able to navigate the ways. They don't give any clarity for why he's loyal to loyal is loyal. Why he's loyal to Rand and Matt and Perrin. Don't give any explanation. There's no character development there of who he is. And so his death, if you haven't read the books, like if you've read the books, he's a loved character in book 1. He was one of my favorite parts of book 1. But if you haven't done that, you have no backstory on this character, and they just kill him, and you're like, okay. Like, it doesn't have any impact. And that's where I go to this, like, sloppy nature of this show, that even these big moments, because they haven't built to them in any way within the show, not saying, oh, I liked how they built the character better in the book. Just in the show, did they build the character well? No. And it goes to Rand with his conflict with the Dark One. Doesn't have much impact because we haven't spent much time with Rand. We haven't gotten to look into his mindset and him trying to deal with the fact that, man, I'm the Dragon Reborn. They throw in a really great scene at the beginning. I really liked the opening scene where they go 3,000 years ago and you see the world before. And also, as we've talked a few times, we're supposed to be in somewhat of we're in a broken civilization that was way more advanced beforehand, right?
Yeah.
And they did show that with it's almost like a sci-fi world, which is cool. I was very excited about that. I thought that was awesome. Now, I would have liked them to show the conflict of Lews Therin and the Dark One. That would have been epic because we
Again,
get
we
that at
could
the
have
beginning
seen
of
the
book
breaking
1.
of the world.
I want to
Ah.
see the breaking of the world. We said way back when we reviewed episode 1 that we thought the breaking of the world should have been the first episode.
Cold open would have been
Or the
perfect.
opening of it. Or at least a short overview of what happened. But it didn't. And then, we have this kind of this conversation, but it didn't really go anywhere in that opening scene. And then you jump forward to us, but that's apparently supposed to give us backstory on what Rand is dealing with. But we haven't spent any time with Rand to know what he's dealing with. I'm still annoyed with the Blight. The Blight doesn't work.
It
Um,
didn't bother me as much this episode. Just they're gonna change. That's just a change that I'm. It's a minor change for me, but Yeah, it's still not
Yeah,
good.
it still just doesn't feel like a place where warders and Ailman go to
We also
fight.
didn't see like any of the creatures that happen in the Blight.
No,
Um, I really what are those worms called? The
I
is it
don't
just a
remember.
blight worm?
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember.
I was really looking forward to seeing one of those because those things are just sick creatures.
Yeah.
Um,
And again, that goes to these things that are
yeah,
unique about Wheel of Time that are would draw in fans, right? Because we want something new, a new spin, a new unique idea, and it just are. It feels like Diet Game of Thrones, and if I'm looking for Game of Thrones, I'm just gonna go watch Game of Thrones, right? And that's my biggest concern with the show is it's not a good show on its own. I'm over the discussion of changes. We talked about them. We're going to continue talking about, what we like, what we didn't like. I liked some of the changes. I didn't like others. I think that's going to be with every single adaptation you ever see. You're going to have changes you don't like, changes you like, right? Because we all come up with our own ideas of how characters are supposed to interact, or our favorite characters or our favorite interactions. Everybody has a different opinion on what their favorite moment was in book one. And so for some of us, we didn't get to see that on screen. For others, they did get to see it on screen. Cool. That's not really my problem with the show at this point. My problem with the show at this point is it's just not quality television to begin with. It's not a well-told story, whatever that story is told.
no,
And that makes me very afraid for season 2. To contrast it, I was talking with my family about the show. And they were asking me, they said they were just going to wait until they all come out and binge them. Um, and they've been asking some questions about what I thought, and leading up to the season finale, they brought up the point that I had mentioned way back when we talked about The Witcher season 1, where The Witcher season 1 I thought was a very hit or miss for most of the show, but the last couple episodes really landed home for me and made me excited for season 2, right?
mhm.
And they were like, "Well, do you think Wheel of Time can do the same thing where maybe this last episode will, you know,
Yeah,
wrap everything up or give you some hope and some excitement for the future um to move forward with season 2?" And unfortunately, I don't feel like it did. Um I don't think I think there's more issues than with The Witcher season 1. I was mostly just complaining that the story was told in a confusing way.
which is a
And that there
valid
was
criticism.
unnecessary nudity thrown all over the place. Which, if you listen to my last episode, that's my biggest pet peeve in all of television. But anyways, the last couple episodes gave me a lot of hope for what season 2 was going to be with The Witcher. In my opinion, the last couple episodes here with Wheel of Time have given me zero hope for season 2. I know it's already in production. I think they've already greenlit 3 seasons.
Yep.
So I guess on the plus side is they do have a lot of time now to try and fix things. Um, but maybe some general thoughts from you, Gabe, on the overall season. What do you have any hope for season 2? What are you thinking?
um, I wouldn't say I have hope. Um, I yeah, the finale kind of made me like, I'm not gonna like the direction this is going. Um, however, I'm kind of just I don't know if it's morbid curiosity or just this is one of my favorite book series. I still kind of
Yeah,
want to see what happens. How
yeah.
they're gonna tell their version of a story.
Mm-hmm.
As another person I've who read the books, they put it like this is a different turning of the wheel. This isn't what we read in the
Mm,
books. This is just a different era of the
yeah.
world. Um,
Hmm.
which I can accept that as I'll just there's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be differences, and I'm curious as to what they're going to change and how they'll do it.
Yeah.
But I have no investment in the characters by themselves at this point. All
Yeah.
of my investment in the show basically comes from, oh, I know that they're trying to get to this point, but that might not be what they're going for.
They might not
So
be going to that point at all.
yeah, so season two doesn't hold a ton of interest for me. Other than that, I
Yeah.
don't. I don't. This season just felt it just didn't feel like quality television, like you were saying. It didn't feel
Yeah.
like a quality story, which is what I thought would be the strongest point of the show, considering how much I liked book one. And I think a lot of that just came down to we didn't have enough screen time with characters. They didn't have any. There wasn't a lot of dialogue between characters that made me care about them, except for maybe Nynaeve and Lan, however
Yeah.
you. I like those, and that I like the interactions between certain characters, and then some people
Yeah.
just felt like they didn't have anything. Like I like Rand's actor. I think he did a good job portraying him, but I didn't feel like we got anything of Rand in the
No.
through the story.
Yeah.
Um, which I understand
I
you
would
have
say
to.
same with Perrin.
Yeah,
Perrin, I think, is the most disappointing to me. I just like, and I don't. The actor, I think, did a fine job with what he was given, but I
yeah,
just feel like he was given nothing, and like we didn't really like we forced this horrific opening event for his character, and then did absolutely nothing with it.
yeah. It was just very disappointing with how they handled the characters. Um, and then like I like what they did with Moraine and Lan, how they
Mm-hmm.
fleshed about a bit more than book one does in this series. Um,
Yeah.
I even though I still don't like the funeral scene, I like how they added this character moment, so we get to see
Yeah.
how their impact. I like seeing all of those. I like some of those changes they did, like with the
Yep.
warders. I like getting to see them a bit more,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of the warders were influenced by Robert Jordan's experience in Vietnam. Um,
Mm.
so I enjoyed seeing that. Um, these small things that I enjoyed a lot because of my experience with the books. I don't know if I would have cared for them at all if I hadn't read the book. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Because it
Yeah.
didn't feel like it added anything other than, oh, I know that because of what I've learned. Like they were drawing
Mm-hmm.
off of the source material without explaining it, and then they decide to not use the source material. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
there were good things in the show, but like you said, I feel like Lan was good. I
Yeah,
will say Lan was a highlight. Nynaeve and Lan, I thought made way more sense. Their relationship in this show made way more sense than the book. In the book, I felt like it was a complete joke. Um,
okay,
um, so that relationship I thought worked much better. I thought Rand and Egwene
a bit more fleshed
worked
out.
was much more fleshed out, which I liked. Um, I thought Moraine was an interesting character. My favorite was Logain. I mean, we go watch our reaction to episode 4. We loved that episode.
Game was
Um,
Puck.
that was sick. I loved that, and I was hoping for more of that. But then he just disappears. I mean, I don't even know where he is right now, or what he's doing.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of our favorite characters were just side characters. We got like Logain. Loyal didn't get fleshed out. Pat and Vane. Um, what's the Inquisitor's name? Like I thought
Oh,
all of those guys were really great
yeah, what happened to
presences.
him? I feel
Um,
like we were like every these episodes would have these things that were like, "Ooh, this is building something cool," and then it would just stop, and then we'd go to something else.
well, I
And
understand that they have to do that in the sense that they're building all of these other things for season two, like coming seasons. These are having repercussions. Things are going to happen
yes,
affected from season one. But
yeah,
we still needed a somewhat more of a conclusion on some of these things.
yeah, we needed some, and I guess let's my big thing is the moment we see in The Witcher season 1 where I'm gonna blank on the mage female
Yennefer.
who's kind of in charge. No,
Oh, her
her
teacher.
like teacher.
I don't remember
What's
her
her
name now
name?
off the top of
Crap.
my head.
I just blanked. Anyways, her
Damn it.
when she tells Yennefer, "Let your chaos explode," and then she burns like the whole army to death. That was epic. That was incredibly cool. And that's the kind of moment that I think Wheel of Time's final season finale needed in order to appeal to the masses, to grab everybody in of like, this is sick. This is really cool, right? Game of Thrones had the dragons. So many people got into the show because they saw a dragon flying around and went, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to watch this show, right? Witcher, creature design, the magic portrayal, and Yennefer, burning everybody alive, Ciri like breaking the monolith and
The
separating
basilisks.
the earth, the basilisks, right? There's some certain things that are super standout that make people want to watch the show. Maybe not everybody, people
Yeah.
might go, I'm not a big monster person. Like,
But if you're not a monster person, you're not in fantasy probably.
that's probably true. But you're like, if you're appealing to the masses, there's nothing. I don't feel like there was anything this season that was particularly incredible. Besides, the only thing that had some moments where I was like, oh, this could get people interested was Logain weaving and like the voices and that whole interaction in episode 4.
That was pretty good. Yeah, I would agree.
That's the unique part of Wheel of Time that can grab everybody else in. The magic system and the taint. That is what can get people interested. Also, fades. Fades are really cool. Let's be real here. They're sick.
They are.
And
I wish we saw
their
more of
design in
them.
the show was really cool. But you're right. We don't see hardly any of them. In fact, the only time we see one actually in combat
Is it this season finale?
is episode 4.
Didn't we see them kill people in this final season? In the final episode with
No.
Pat and Fane?
We don't see them we don't see them in combat at all. We come in and they're all dead already.
Oh yeah, we don't really like. I guess when they break into the building, they just kind of kill the person. Yeah, not really showing anything off.
No combat. Just they killed a couple people because they kind of sneak up on them.
Yeah.
And then when you come in, those like those 3 warriors, we should have seen them fight the Fates and die. That would have been way more epic.
Been so sick.
And
we could have also seen
things...
them die. One of them die to the blades they have. They're I forget what they're called. Just like, show how powerful these guys are, and then Pat and Fane's elevated as a villain.
Yep.
And like you were saying, if we had Rand come and save, I can't remember the kingdom now, but if he came and destroyed the Horde instead, right?
Yeah.
We would have seen how powerful the dragon is and why he's so special. Because at this point, all we know is he's a guy who can channel.
Yeah.
We really don't know any.
We've never seen his power.
Yeah, I mean, we know the dragon in the past broke the world, but we haven't seen that.
We haven't seen them break the world.
Yeah, in the book, we have the prequel to see that, hey, this is the power that we're talking about. This is the scale we're going to get
at the beginning of book 1.
Yeah. We don't get that. We don't know.
And I was hoping book 1 ends with Rand unleashing some serious power.
Yes.
That is then, drives you to be like, oh, I can't wait to read more and see him keep leveling up. But we have yet to see the dragon, either Lews Therin or Rand, really use his power and show why he's the most powerful channeler ever and why he really does have the power to break the entire world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to me, that is, you have to have moments like that in order to draw in other fans. And unfortunately, Wheel of Time, I don't think has a single moment besides a little bit with Logain in episode 4.
I would also say was that season 5 or episode 5 or episode 6 with we see Rand's mom, the Aiel.
Oh,
I thought that was
cool.
That was just you're fighting while
that
in
was
labor.
Like 7.
That's badass.
Yeah, I think that was episode 7. I think that was episode 7.
7.
That was cool. That was very cool. I was a little hit or miss on the editing of it, but
yeah,
it was pretty cool. And that was a pretty cool moment. But I guess it doesn't feel, even that moment doesn't feel unique to Wheel of Time. Like, we've seen badass fighters take on take on a bunch of people before. Now, while giving birth, I mean, that's a whole nother level here. But that's not that scene is not, we've seen really cool action sequences with swords and lances and things and spears and things. To me, that's not particularly unique to Wheel of Time, of like, this is why you need to watch Wheel of Time. Because if I want to watch a really cool action sequence, yeah, that would be one of them. But I can also go see The Witcher has a couple of great ones, specifically that one that you always mentioned in season 1, right?
That first episode, bro. That's
That
still
first
my
episode
favorite.
was epic, right?
Ugh.
So that's cool, right? And then there's some moments in Lord of the Rings that are pretty badass, right? We
Yeah.
can like there's really cool fight scenes in multiple different shows. It's not particularly unique to Wheel of Time. And the whole show, like, you could build a show around just epic fight scenes. Into the Badlands did that on AMC. All it was is just like really cool fighting. That's it. That's all the show was supposed to be, right? And you could build it, but that's not what Wheel of Time is. That's not unique to Wheel of Time. That's not how they've built the show. That was the only real epic fight scene we saw in the whole season.
Yeah.
Outside of, I guess, maybe in episode 1 with Lan and Moraine fighting the Trollocs in the Two Rivers. That was pretty sick. But it isn't, the Wheel of Time is not a particularly focused on action type show. It's
No.
more on characters and some of the politics and the internal conflicts that are going on, interpersonal conflicts that are going on. And I just don't feel like this show at any point in season 1 gave me a reason to watch it over anything else.
Yeah. If you're gonna focus on these characters and build them, I think you have to do it well. I died. Yeah, I would agree. If it's going to try to be focused on these characters and how they're going to interact and moving forward, how events are going to influence the relationships, I think you need a little bit more focus on the characters as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I said before that they had problems with the characters, and I would stand by that. But I would like to clarify that the relationships between characters are really good, are pretty well done. I like all the relationships between characters.
Yes.
That's about all of the building I got with characters, though.
Exactly. We didn't get to see internal conflicts that are going on.
Which is
that's
a huge part of Wheel of Time.
And I think that's why Perrin was so disappointing to me, is because his main conflict is internal.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be.
Yeah, he's not a guy who shares things very often. Which is totally going to be difficult to do, like to represent in a TV show without doing like internal monologues.
Internal monologuing, yeah.
Which takes up a lot of screen time.
Yep.
But I feel like we needed more of these relationship moments to flesh out characters a bit more. If they had a lot more screen, I would say, I'm not a fan of 8-episode seasons. For a show like this, if you're going to focus on characters, especially ones where there's a lot of internal conflicts and all of that, you need more screen time to flesh that out, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Or at least with Wheel of Time, I felt like it could have done with more episodes to take more time to develop these things. Maybe then we could have had characters like, I can't even think of his name now, the wolf guy. I don't know.
Elias,
thank you. We could have had Elias would have made Perrin's character great. We could have had him be able to talk to someone about what he's going through.
Well, and to be fair, to compare it to a show like Game of Thrones did 10-episode seasons, at least at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which gives you another 2 hours worth of content. Yeah, all of them are 10 episodes until season 7 and season 8.
The 2 people don't like.
Which is really, that is funny that's the 2 that people don't like. But yeah, everything was 10 episodes, and then season 7 is 7 episodes. Season 8 is only 6 episodes. And all of those are 55 minutes long. So to be like some of these shows, like you said, especially with Wheel of Time having such a big cast of characters too, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you're going to try and do it, a show like Mandalorian, that's 8 episodes. And it isn't even as long as, they're not even 50 minutes a piece. Some of them are 30s.
Yeah.
But because you're focused on literally one character that talks, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
That's plenty of time for just him.
Yeah,
right?
It works out. A Wheel of Time, we have at least 7.
At least 7 main characters that need to have some screen time fleshing things out. I think you're going to need to spend a little extra time working on those characters and having
Yeah.
them shown on screen.
And we were pretty harsh with episode 6 and 7.
We
Um,
were.
I'm going to take back a little bit of the criticism with the fact that that was the last the last shot we have of Matt is literally the last shot they have with Barney Harris. He was gone by that episode.
Correct.
Like he was leaving. Like it was rushed. They had to change things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. There's a little bit of leeway there, but that does not forgive the rest of the problems we had with the show or those episodes.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because that's not the writer's fault. That's not the showrunner's fault. They had a conflict with the actor had a scheduling conflict essentially and had to leave.
Yeah.
And so so you have to cut him out. And I think we might have mentioned it last week when we were so disappointed with that and said like maybe it was he just had to leave. And it does seem like they did. Although they do throw him in there right at the end here of this season finale. He's back at Shadar Logoth, which I don't understand, but whatever.
The changes they made are problematic to me, but I'm not going to fault them for making changes because of the conflict.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now, let me ask this question. What the hell are those ships?
Okay. How far? Like, I don't know.
Without
hours.
Too many spoilers.
Okay. I want to ask because I know you're listening to the book right now. Roughly how far into book 2 are you?
Well, I will give a non-spoiler answer to this. Rand has opened his present.
Okay. Okay. I think I know where we're at. So very, very early on.
Yeah, pretty early on.
Okay. Well, it definitely gets explained in book 2, but essentially without major spoilers, just like the basics of basics.
Yeah.
This is a nation from across the sea.
Okay.
And they are obviously here to conquer.
Yeah, it looks like it. But you know what I thought as I was seeing that? I literally felt like, I don't care. I really didn't. I was like, okay, so there's a bunch of people in ships and they're using the one power to make a tidal wave. That's cool. All right. Whatever.
Yep.
Like, I don't, they didn't set up who these people were, right?
Yep.
Like, they didn't, if they could have taken maybe a moment, if this is what they're going to try and, like, lead up to of, like, a big moment here, can't you, like, give us a glimpse of maybe their culture at one point during the season?
It would have been nice. Now, to be fair, we don't see them at all in book 1, right? So the books,
True.
like, according to the books, they didn't bring these up. I don't remember exactly when in book 2 they come up, but I don't see why you brought it up here at the end of season 1.
I don't see why you put it in. You could have totally just saved that for a moment in season 2. In fact, you could have opened season 2 with, like, a glimpse of that group of people coming over. Or, like, getting prepared to come over or something.
Yes.
To be like, guess what? In season 2? Yeah, and I'm interested to... And I'll read the rest of book 2 here in the next few months or whatever. But, and I'm interested to learn more about them. But you didn't need to put that at the end of season 1 because guess what? Nobody who watched the show and hasn't read the books, or anybody that just read book 1 because they're like, well, I'll get through book 1 so that I'm ready for season 1 because they'll probably somewhat match up.
No one knows.
No one knows. And so there's no point to put it there if nobody knows about it except for your most diehard fans who have already read the whole series and know what's going to happen.
It has
no impact. It's not interesting. Exactly. And that's where I get to this. What are we doing? We say we're trying to make this more accessible. Okay, then make it more accessible. Show an epic power. We've leveled up the power of certain characters to make them more impressive. Show the power of Rand at the end of the season. Don't make it this boring conversation in a dream state. that's not accessible. That's cool to the diehard fans like you who are like, yeah, I remember in book 12, they have an interaction similar to that. Okay, whatever. I don't, and no, neither does any of the casual fans that you're trying to bring into the show. They don't know either. And that's a problem to me is we've said we're trying to make it more accessible, and then we keep doing things that are completely inaccessible, like not explaining Loyal, like cutting out Elias as a character because he's kind of just a guide character anyways, right? We cut out a bunch of guide characters. We throw in this people from across the sea at the end of the season finale as like a big foreboding supposedly epic moment, but you've given us no context, and that's only known by the other people who have diehard fans, right? Our casual fans don't know that. And that's where I just get very confused with where this show is going and what they're trying to do.
Yeah, they just don't seem to have a cohesive direction.
No.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed with this season, especially as someone who loves the books.
Yeah.
I'll probably still watch season 2 just to see what happens. Maybe it turns around. You know, I wasn't the biggest fan of Witcher season 1, and then season 2 I loved. So
yeah,
you know, there's
we can hope.
Yeah, and if they draw on source material, I love the source material. So there's something.
Yeah, and maybe they'll look at this season and go, you know, we need to take more of our budget and put it towards set design and towards CGI. And you know, maybe they'll look at this first season, take some of the criticisms. I mean, look at Witcher season 2. They even made an homage to the criticisms, right? The writers kind of fired back at the fans that had criticized season 1 in season 2 with the whole Yaskier and the one the boat guard guy, right? Made total sense, you know, and that was fun. And I thought that was a great like homage of, yes, we heard you, we get it, we tried, okay, back off, right? I'd like to see you do better. And I thought that was funny and a good kind of tongue-in-cheek kind of back and forth between the writers and the fans, and a good moment. So maybe Wheel of Time can do something similar where they take some of these criticisms and go, you know, we really do need to explain some of these characters more, and we really do need to maybe allocate more of our budget to CGI. Maybe that's a thing. I don't know. Again, we're not on the production team, so we don't know what kind of internal conflicts happened or you know, problems happened with set design or CGI or whatever. I mean, they did this during COVID. COVID makes things hard to create, right? And also you have a situation where one of your lead actors has to leave. And so you have to find a way to kind of cut him out of the end of the season so that you can bring him back later with a new actor. So, you know, all of that goes into play in these seasons. And it, you know, there's always production problems and hiccups and things, and hopefully in season 2 they can remedy some of those problems and issues.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, yep. We'll just have to see what happens.
We shall, and we will probably cover season 2 on the podcast here when it comes out, I would assume. Because I think both of us will probably still watch it because we're interested. We enjoy the source material. We want to see what happens in the show. But I'm kind of glad that it's over. I don't have to watch it anymore. I was pretty done with it by the end.
It's not a good thing to hear about a show.
Yeah, probably not. But with that, let's transition to something. Oh,
we got to give our overall rating for season 1.
Oh, you want an overall rating?
We got to do it, yeah. Now that we know how the whole story comes together.
All right, you go first.
This is a 5 out of 10. Yeah,
okay, 5 out of 10.
5. There are parts I liked. It had potential. It just didn't follow through on a lot of it for me. And like you said, there are lots of... Just wasn't the most visually appealing.
Yeah. I'm going to go 4.
Okay.
I'm going to go 4 out of 10. If you get, in my opinion, if you drop down to the 3 or 2 or 1, it probably means I didn't finish your show. Like, it's hard I can't really rate any show below a 4 that I actually did finish. Um, I give it a 4. If I wasn't on the podcast doing it, I would have probably waited for the last 3 episodes to just come out and then watch them all in a day. Um, when I
Totally
was
fair.
bored or something, you know what I mean? Um, but there were some good moments. There were. Specifically episode 4. Episode 4 was a great episode. Let's just keep doing that episode over and over again. That would be great. Um, hopefully they'll make some progress, and hopefully season 2 will recover, and
Yeah,
maybe it can be something like Witcher season 2, where we didn't really love Witcher season 1, but we loved Witcher season 2. So
yeah.
we'll see how it comes out, and yeah, we'll look forward to discussing it with all of you in the comments.
May the light shine on season 2.
Yeah, may the light shine. It's gonna need a lot of light. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, with that, enough of the disappointing blah blah blah. Although maybe I'm speaking too soon, but let's transition to Book of Boba. Very hyped. Oh, I know both of us were very excited for this. If you followed our Mandalorian coverage or our Bad Batch coverage, you know how much we love Star Wars here on
Big
this
Star Wars
podcast.
nerds.
It's definitely my biggest fandom for sure. And we got new Star Wars content. So, Gabe, episode 1 dropped, chapter 1 of the Book of Boba. I really like that they're calling them chapters. That just makes me happy.
It feels good.
What did you think of episode 1?
I enjoyed it. One of my biggest, not complaints, but like, how did Boba get out of the Sarlacc pit?
Sarlacc pit,
What?
yeah.
I like how we're getting to see that in snippets.
Mm.
I really like that storytelling choice where we're getting to see it in his dreams, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoy that aspect of the show. I like that he's basically like, I'm just gonna take Boba's role, not Boba, Jabba's role here on Mos Eisley. Is it Mos Eisley?
Yep.
Or just Tatooine in general?
Tatooine in general, yeah.
But he's gonna do it his way. I think it's an
Mhm.
interesting character choice for Boba Fett.
Mhm.
It makes him, throughout Star Wars, you haven't had a ton of Boba Fett character until Clone Wars, basically.
Yeah.
And then not much after that.
Correct.
So I like how we're getting to explore him as a character and his interactions with other people.
Mhm.
I feel like some of the action sequences weren't my favorite in this episode, though. Yeah. What about you overall?
Overall, I really enjoyed it. I think I agree. I'm going to echo some of the things you said. Really liked this storytelling, I guess motif you would almost call it, of saying, let's show how he got out of the Sarlacc pit, how he came to, because he just shows up right in Mandalorian. We're like, that's sick. Let's go.
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. Yeah, he's a badass again. But all of us diehard Star Wars fans were sitting going, okay, how did he get out though? Like,
what's going on?
Wait a minute. How did he get out? And I liked that we opened with kind of that situation. We got to see the inside and how he kind of got out. My father thinks we should have had a little bit more, but I don't really care. Whatever. We explained it. We got a few scenes, and I'm sure we'll get more in these flashbacks.
Yes.
I like this flashback to show a lot of character development for Boba. And I think this new concept of, like he tells Fennec, Jabba ruled with fear, I intend to rule with respect. I think it's fun to see in these flashbacks maybe how he got to that opinion of that's the best way to rule.
Yes.
So I think that's really cool. And like you said, we got a lot of character development finally in Clone Wars, which really fleshed out the character of Boba Fett, which I think is cool. But then moving into some more recent character development so that we can see how he got to this position, which I think is really awesome.
Yes.
I think I would actually tend to agree with you. The action sequences
just felt
felt
off.
a little off to me. Um, they weren't my favorite. They were still good, I would
Yeah.
say. I wouldn't say they were bad. Um, but there were a couple moments in action sequences where I either noticed like an inconsistency where it like somebody was where they shouldn't have been or looking a certain way or whatever. And it didn't feel quite as fluid as I wanted it to.
Yeah.
Um, there was just a few moments that felt a little clunky.
Yeah.
Um,
For
I
me
think is what I
especially,
would say.
when they get attacked, when they get jumped by those assassins.
Yes.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and there's this one moment where Boba just he comes down with one of their blades on another guy, and he just has this look on his face, and the moment that shot lasted for just a split second too long that I noticed it extra. I'm like, why did you edit it like that? Why not? Why is he making this weird face?
Yeah.
It's just a little jarring. Or
Yeah.
when he's getting beaten by the Tusken Raiders. Well, he's at the.
Mm-hmm.
There's very obviously two of them who are just not even coming close with their sticks. I'm just like,
Yes.
okay,
Oh yeah, like the kids. They're
yeah,
like swinging. They're very clearly missing him, and I
yeah.
was like, okay, that doesn't look quite right to me. Um,
Not huge issues, just things that were a little jarring for me.
yeah,
Watching.
yeah, that would be my opinion too. It wasn't that they were like bad. It was just a few more. I was like, okay, hold on, that's kind of funny. That
Yeah.
doesn't quite work. Um,
Uh,
the one that got me is actually was in probably my favorite part of the whole episode, which is that new creature we
oh,
introduced.
that one
I
was
don't even know what
sick.
it's called, but it's really cool.
Oh yeah, this like
Um,
lizard centaur, love it, love it.
yeah, and it can like walk on all six legs or two legs or four legs, and it's like a gorilla kind of. I don't know. I got so many cool. It was just really cool creature. And that's something that Star Wars has done so well over the years. Is their creature design is just so interesting. Um, and I thought that thing was awesome. But when Boba's choking him out,
Oh, and the kid's
there's
like he's like right next to it, and then he's like 5 feet away.
well, I wasn't even that. It was actually he winds like the chain around his arm,
Yeah.
and then the very next moment, it's not around his arm, and he's back to just regular, and that bothered me.
I I had a similar one with he like whips the chain to wrap the two left arms or
Oh,
right
uh
arms of
huh,
the creature,
yeah,
and then it
yeah,
just throws him, and all of a sudden those chains are not there anymore. Like they have come off somehow of those arms. He didn't break them. You didn't see any motion to get them off. It's just all right. You're getting yeeted, and the chain's going too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There
uh,
were some moments like that that were just a little like, okay, hold on, guys,
yeah. Like
that didn't quite look right. It's like the
there's a gap.
classic where you can tell someone was like it was like a different day of shooting. Like it'll happen in movies where somebody's like their hair's
Oh
messed up in one scene and then the very next scene their hair isn't messed up anymore, or like you could tell they redid their makeup in between.
yeah.
Um it was there were just a couple, and it was very, again, we're kind of getting nitpicky here. There was like maybe 10 seconds of those kinds of things that happened in the whole episode.
Yeah.
But it was just funny to notice, and it was something where it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But something I wanted to just point out that I absolutely love is Filoni and Favreau's attention to detail about what has already happened in Star Wars, and how we've set up the um the universe and how it works, while still, pushing the boundaries of the stories they're telling, right? Things like having the song that he comes in at is like just a reprise of the original song,
Yes. Star Wars and
right?
their Star Wars and their motifs and music just
Exactly.
can't be matched in any film universe.
It's incredible, and the way he used these producers and writers pay attention to those little small details just makes me so happy. They
Oh yeah.
do the little things so well. the back to tank, right? The the guards, the all of it is just well done. The character design, the creature design, the species design, right? We have all these different alien species, and they keep them coming back, so that it feels like a real cohesive world. Um, just really cool to me. Um, and it feels like Star Wars. You hop in, you're like, yeah. Even though it's different, like this is a different kind of story, right? We've got kind of this little bit of a gangster motif going on right here, right? And Mandalorian had very Western style influences. This kind of feels more gangstery. And I'm sure it's going to feel a lot more gangstery soon, especially with this mayor character that we don't really know who he is yet.
Can we also talk about his I don't even remember the title of the mayor's guy who came to visit.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
how just every time he spoke, I wanted to punch him in the face,
Oh
which
yeah.
is like props to the actor for making
Yeah.
like the speech pattern. Like, oh, I I don't know how Boba Fett didn't just nuke him right there, but
Oh
gosh,
yeah.
I am now excited to see how that interaction goes even more because of how much I hate that
Yeah.
guy.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know. Just everything about it I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
you're
like,
gross. I
oh, I'm
hate
I'm
you.
I'm gonna bow to you, but it feels like an insult every single time.
Yeah, every single everything he did felt like an insult, and that was perfect.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, props to that guy. And yeah, it's got a little different feel, but it still feels like Star Wars. I
Hmm.
still, there's still things that are making Tusken Raiders. I'm loving to get more Tusken Raider content. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
It's also
And
really
how who
interesting
they
to
are.
see how I know Boba was weakened. He's been imprisoned. He's in a Sarlacc pit. He's not had good nutrition, and then he just gets absolutely wrecked by this Tusken Raider. Like not just strength outmatched, just skill.
No.
That was like shocking. Like oh wow, like okay, you're obviously a force of Tusken Raider that we have not seen before.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see where this goes.
Yeah. Definitely. Very cool. Also these and this is I think since we're in the same episode, right? We just talked about Wheel of Time. It's these little things that Wheel of Time didn't do that I think really hurt it. And little things like how about the like symbol? I don't know what that symbol was that was put on the door or on the wall, like that
Oh, by
gang
the
that
by the
steals
guys
all
who
the
raid the house.
yeah, that raid the
Yeah.
house of the moisture farmer. Um we don't know who that is or what that is, but I'm really interested, and I'm sure that's going to come up sometime. Knowing Filoni, he's going to weave that in somehow.
Somewhere.
Um, so it's little things like that that get me excited. Um, the first episode was definitely on the slower side. Um, I'm totally fine with that. I know
Yeah.
some people have said it was a bit of a slow start, but if you've followed Filoni's content for any number of years,
It's always a
he's
slow
always
start.
slow. It's always a slow start. It always is. And it's really funny to me because it really is always a slow start, but it always comes in and becomes just absolutely epic later on.
Yep.
Um, and so I have full trust in Dave, our buddy Dave and our buddy
Our boy.
John, right?
Our boy Dave.
Um, yeah, just a really good. I thought it was a good, solid first episode.
Yeah.
Got us into the series, got us into the content. Started setting things up, and like you said, I think the flashback's really cool. I'm really interested to see more Tusken Raider culture because that's something we've never
No.
seen before. Um,
It
so
will
I
be
think
different.
that'll be cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. I also like the we haven't seen it like we've seen snippets of the crime side of things in Star Wars. Um,
Yeah,
but it's never been a
true.
focus. So getting to
Mm-hmm.
see the all right, let's see how the daimyo works here on Mos Eisley.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how all these pieces interplay together. And it'll be also really interesting to see, post Empire,
Yeah.
more of that. Which again, we talked about how much we loved that of Mandalorian. We get to see this part of the universe that we haven't seen before. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I'm excited to see how the crime side of that plays out as well. Um,
Yes. Yes. And as
so
somebody who loves crime thrillers, I'm so
yeah,
in.
I,
So down
it's
for this
also
content.
fun because I, I've told you you should read this book series, but one of the characters in Jade, I think it's just called the Jade trilogy, but the first book is Jade City. It's
Mhm.
about crime, like a crime family, and one of them
Mhm.
is literally just the guy on the street who beats people up. He is the they call him the Horn. That's his title. He's the bruiser of the family.
Gotcha.
Um,
Uh-huh.
leads all their forces, and eventually he has to take on a bigger role.
Mhm.
It's really funny to see how much Boba Fett acts like said character. Because it's like, I have no social grace. I mean, I'm gonna be polite, I'm gonna be nice, but I don't care about social graces. I don't care
Yeah.
to like show status or anything. I'll just beat people up if they do otherwise.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so I love that aspect of Boba Fett here and how that's gonna clash with everyone else in the crime world.
I love how he just blew up that one guy as he's running away with the rocket. That was
Oh,
fantastic.
I also love how he walks the whatever establishment, the bar they went into.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, he walks in and she's like, "Oh, well, we can discuss business. What do you want this to happen?" He's like, "Oh, it's just gonna take 5 minutes. Don't worry. It's okay.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
just here
just
to
talk
say
right now.
hi, and I'll keep you safe, and I'm out."
Uh-huh. Yep.
Love that. So this is gonna be a very. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Definitely. Definitely. I think they set up a good beginning of a season, and we will definitely be covering every single episode here on the podcast. Gabe, let's just end this podcast. What was your rating out of 10? We like to do these ratings of episode 1 of Book of Boba.
I don't really have any complaints besides those nitpicky things. So probably a 8.59 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, I'm thinking
excited
an
for Star
8.
Wars. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking an 8. It was very solid. It was great. I mean, it didn't do any. It wasn't particularly, if
Yeah.
you're gonna be for me a 9 or a 10, you got to be doing something that was like way better than all of the other episodes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought this was just a really solid, great piece of content. 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for episode 2 coming next week, and
Yeah.
we'll be covering it here next week. So let us know in the comments down below what you thought of maybe Wheel of Time. Maybe what you thought about this first episode of Book of Boba. Are you excited for Book of Boba? I know both of us are. And we will see you next week.